My husband, from 10 years in the future, just wired $2 million into my account. And left a message in my notes app. If you really are Amelia Grant from 10 years ago, please leave. I typed back a question mark. Then another line automatically appeared. Do you still remember when I said I wanted to divorce you and enter a fake marriage with Skylar? Of course I remembered. Skylar Vance was his childhood friend, obsessed with him. When he didn't feel the same way, she took things to the extreme and threatened to kill herself. Julian Cross proposed a 1-year fake marriage with Skylar to fulfill her wish. I tore up the divorce papers and we had a huge fight. It's me or Skylar. You have to choose. In the end, he backed down and promised to stop involving himself in Skylar's affairs. A year later, Skylar withered away. We argued and fought constantly until we ruined each other. I don't get it. She was just a kid I watched grow up, like a little sister. Why couldn't you let it go even after she was gone? So I tried everything to contact you, 10 years in the past. I need you to leave now. If you have any conscience left, do as I say. 1 week from now, you'll start a new life. Tears hit the screen as I typed my answer. Okay. On day 7, Julian came home at 3 in the morning. The new company project is important. I'll be working late the next few days. Don't wait up. I answered half-heartedly, my eyes fixed on the notes app. There's no new project. Skylar cut her wrists again. He's at the hospital with her. The first time the notes app suddenly displayed text, I thought it was a prank. Words appeared on the screen, line by line, claiming to be Julian from 10 years in the future. He said Skylar would call, and Julian would take his phone to the balcony. He said he bought Skylar a gift, and a package appeared at the door. For the past month, I'd felt like a spectator, watching my husband follow a predetermined script, step by painful step. My bruised heart still tightened in my chest. I typed onto the screen. What do you mean, start a new life in a week? Remember that investment I told you to make? Dividends will hit your account soon. A nice profit. There's a remote island in the south. If you go there, no one will find you. I bit my lip. How do you know about that place? The notes app fell silent. After a long moment, his answer appeared. I came here to get away from you. On day 6, in the morning, I got a bank alert. My account balance had grown a long string of digits. I counted twice. $2 million. The notes app lit up. Did the money show up? Take it and enjoy your life. And keep your promise. The screen flickered, then another line appeared. Skylar is very important to me. She's one of the most important people in my life, one of them. I watched him carefully word the phrase. The scene of him introducing Skylar for the first time flashed before my eyes. This is my neighbor's little sister. His hand rested casually on her shoulder. Skylar, say hi to your future sister-in-law. Hi, I'm Skylar. I'm his favorite little sister in the whole world. Julian smiled warmly and gave her a playful pat on the head. Back then, I thought it was just brotherly affection. Later, she started appearing in our lives constantly. Shopping trips, dinners, even our wedding anniversary. She was always there. Her parents work a lot. She grew up at my house. Sometimes she's a little clingy. Amelia, don't be upset with her. You'll always come first for me. Seeing the sincerity in his eyes, I swallowed my hurt. Snapping back to the present, I typed my reply. Julian, you'll get what you want. On day 4, Julian came home early for once. He wore a charcoal gray suit, his hair carefully styled. I've been neglecting you lately. Let me take you out for a nice dinner. My way of apologizing. I glanced at him and the words slipped out. Don't bother. Don't you have to go take care of Skylar? The moment the words left my mouth, the atmosphere grew tense. Julian's face darkened, his brow furrowing. Amelia, I don't. His voice turned icy. I already agreed not to get a divorce. Why can't you just let this go? I took a slow breath and met his angry eyes, a bitter smile forming. You leave the office. At 4 every day. You go to the hospital. Skylar's room is on the 12th floor. You say you're not. So how about showing me your phone? His pupils contracted, his anger rising. Amelia, we agreed before we got married. We would give each other space. Since when did you become like this? You can't even manage basic trust? I watched him play the victim, my nails digging into my palms. Last summer, Skylar posted a picture. In it, she had her head tilted back, her lips pressed to the corner of Julian's mouth. The caption said, truth or dare. He chose dare. I shoved the phone in his face and demanded an explanation. All I got was his impatient response. It was just a game. Why are you making such a big deal out of it? Amelia, marriage is about trust. The trust I gave him became the knife he turned on me. His phone buzzed. Julian glanced at it, then turned to grab his keys. Amelia, I can't ignore it when it comes to Skylar. As her sister-in-law, I hope you can try to understand her a little more. An hour later, the doorbell rang. A man in a black suit stood outside. It was Julian's assistant. Mrs. Cross, he said, looking uncomfortable. Mr. Cross asked me to bring you to the hospital. Ms. Vance wants to see you. The room was on the 12th floor, where fresh lilies sat in a vase on the windowsill, water droplets still on the petals. Julian brought them for Skylar every day. Skylar leaned against the bed, bandages wrapped around her wrist. When she saw me, her eyes lit up. A second later, she threw herself into Julian's arms, her hands locked tight around his neck. Julian's hands hovered in the air. He looked at me. Amelia, Skylar wants to talk with you. Skylar lifted her head from his chest, a hint of mockery in her eyes. Amelia, she said, her tone condescending. You know, Julian was always mine. Our mothers were best friends. We grew up together. When we were little, we did everything together, shared secrets, ate side by side. He said we'd get married when we grew up. He just forgot later. I let out a cold laugh and spoke clearly. He didn't forget. He just didn't pick you. Her face twisted. She grabbed a pillow and threw it at me. You're lying. You stole him from me. When I stepped aside to dodge it, she shrieked and lunged off the bed, shoving me hard with both hands. You have to give him back. I stumbled back 2 steps, the small of my back hitting the corner of a table. I fell to the floor, crying out sharply in pain. My palms scraped against the ground, stinging. Skylar. Julian's face changed. He rushed over and pulled Skylar into his arms. She trembled against his chest. The bandages around her wrist loosened, revealing rows of scars underneath. Julian carefully lifted her back onto the bed, then turned to face me. She's my most important family. In my heart, she matters as much as you do. His voice was very low. Can you please stop provoking her? I didn't answer. My eyes stayed fixed on Skylar's hand, my jaw clenched tight. On her right ring finger was a ring, catching the light and throwing a small rainbow. I recognized that diamond instantly. Only 1 in a million carats of rough diamond yields that particular shade of pink. When Julian proposed, I said I wanted an argyle pink diamond. He went to 3 auctions and still couldn't find one I liked. Back then, he held my hand and said tenderly, Amelia, I'll make it up to you later. Later, he gave me a sapphire instead. Skylar noticed my stare. She raised her hand, the pink fire dancing on her fingertip. Beautiful, right? She smiled, only one corner of her mouth lifting. Julian gave it to me. It's 10,000 times more valuable than the one on your finger. Still smiling, her expression suddenly shifted. Tears rolled down her cheeks. Amelia, I know I can't be with him in this life. I'm not asking for that. I just want a simple wedding. One day as his bride. Just one day, and then I'll give him back. Would that be okay? Julian gently wiped her tears away, then looked at me, hesitation in his eyes. Amelia, maybe? My eyes went wide. I almost blurted it out. No, Skylar, you're the one meddling in someone else's marriage. Stop playing the victim. Julian's face went cold. He almost shouted. Amelia, I already told you I won't get a divorce. Why won't you just give her this one thing? My heart only has room for you. Isn't that enough? I spoke each word carefully. Julian, you keep saying you only have eyes for me. Then explain the ring. That pink diamond you couldn't find. Why is she wearing it? His mouth opened. Nothing came out. A wave of bitterness rose in my chest. I ran out into the hallway, the door slamming behind me as tears fell silently down my face. The notes app lit up. You went to the hospital to see Skylar today. Am I right? You saw her arms, didn't you? Every time I tell her no, another scar appears. Amelia, she has nothing else left in this life. I can't give up on her. I took a deep breath and wiped my tears. This marriage was only ever me holding on alone. Even if I won this fight against Skylar, it wouldn't change the end. Julian stepped out of the room and stared at me with cold eyes. Amelia, about the wedding. It doesn't matter if you agree or not. My decision won't change. Besides that, Skylar wants you to be there. As a witness. When I stayed silent, Julian softened his tone. Amelia, you saw what kind of state she's in. Just say yes to her this one time. I'll make it up to you later, okay? My voice came out calm. Fine, I agree. He froze. Good, I'm glad you came around. From inside the room, Skylar's joyful cry echoed. Julian, are you serious? She said yes, I get to be your bride. Then Julian's voice, full of laughter. Skylar, soon you'll be my bride. I stood outside the room, listening to their happiness, feeling the blood turn to ice in my veins. On day 2, Julian put a document on the kitchen table. A divorce settlement. Skylar said that on the wedding day, she wants me completely to herself. He wasn't looking at me, his voice low. Just for one day. Once it's over, we'll remarry right away. He slid another document toward me. A notarized postnuptial agreement stating that both parties would voluntarily remarry each other afterward. If you don't believe me, I'll have them add more clauses. I didn't hesitate. I picked up the pen and signed. Don't bother. On day 1, the hotel ballroom was decorated all in white. Skylar stood on the steps in a flowing white gown, the bandages on her arms and hands completely hidden. She had her arm linked through Julian's, a sweet smile on her face. I stood in the crowd, watching silently. Skylar's gaze found me through the floral arch. Her eyes were dark with malice. Suddenly, she looked down at her hand and let out a shriek. My ring. It's gone. The crowd stirred, people starting to search the floor. Julian frowned and bent down to check the carpet. Skylar's stare fixed on me. A bad feeling crept up my spine. A moment later, her voice echoed through the ballroom. Amelia. Every guest turned to look at me. Could I please borrow your ring? Just for now. Her face was a mask of panic, tears threatening to fall. I'll only need it for the ceremony. I'll give it right back. Julian followed her gaze to me, then walked over, his voice as gentle as always. Amelia, just let her borrow it. You never really liked that diamond anyway, right? I shook my head, my voice shaking. Julian, can't you see she's doing this on purpose? That's my ring. You don't get to make that choice for me. His face hardened. Amelia. He grabbed my wrist, his grip so tight it felt like he'd crush my bones. You're giving her that ring whether you like it or not. He started prying my fingers open one by one. I struggled, but it was no use against his grip. The ring scraped over my knuckle. A searing pain shot up my finger. I let out a gasp, sweat soaking my clothes instantly. Blood seeped from the base of my finger, dripping onto the white marble floor. He let go without a word, turning away with the ring he'd just ripped off, and handed it to Skylar. The pain hadn't faded. 5 red marks were left on my wrist. I sucked in a breath. The wedding march started playing in the hall. Skylar took Julian's arm and walked toward the flower arch, surrounded by staring eyes. I stayed where I was, my throat tight as if someone was squeezing it. A long time passed before I could move again. I turned and walked out of the wedding. At the harbor, the boat was docked. As the engine started, the sea wind rushed in. The city grew smaller and smaller, the buildings shrinking to tiny dots. Everything around me has changed so much. You kept your promise, didn't you? Thank you for letting go. Looking at the words from Julian, 10 years in the future, so happy that I had stepped aside, my eyes blurred with tears. I told myself, we're even now. The screen dimmed. The words in the notes app slowly faded, until it was blank again. In that moment, a sudden panic gripped Julian's heart. He texted Amelia, the wedding's over. Let's go to the courthouse tomorrow and fix things. Okay? Amelia, where are you? After the wedding, Julian realized Amelia was gone. Where's Amelia? Not sure. I think she headed for the exit a while back. He frowned and sent her a text. But Amelia, who always replied instantly, didn't answer for an hour. He stood outside the hotel and called her for the 17th time. Each time, the same cold recorded voice. The person you're trying to reach has their phone turned off. He tried again. Still off. A strange weight settled in his chest, like something had slipped away from him without him noticing. Julian put his phone back in his pocket. His fingers brushed against the sapphire ring, and he spaced out for a second. Julian. Skylar stood behind him at the hotel entrance, smiling softly. Time to see the guests off. He nodded and started walking back. His gaze caught on something on the floor and stopped. What is it? Skylar looked down. A small stain. The edges were already dry, the color like rust. It was Amelia's blood. Oh, how messy. Skylar covered her mouth, looking disgusted. Where's the cleaning staff? Why haven't they wiped this up? She linked her arm through Julian's. Come on, Julian. The guests are waiting. Julian didn't move. Skylar frowned. What's wrong? I have to go find Amelia. She probably just went home. Her voice was light. She looked upset today. Let her have some time alone. He sighed. Her phone's off. That's normal. Maybe the battery died, or she just doesn't want to talk. You know how she is. When she gets mad, she ignores everyone. Skylar's words tumbled out quickly. Find her tomorrow. Today's our wedding day. Julian looked down at the pale band of skin on his left finger where his wedding ring used to be. Skylar, I'm sorry. Her lashes fluttered. Tears filled her eyes. Julian, what are you saying? I have to go find her. The sounds from the ballroom seemed to fade away. The hotel staff were still moving chairs and taking down flower stands, but it felt like they were in another world. Today is our wedding. Skylar's voice changed, her face full of pleading. You promised me. You said you would give me a wedding. Julian pressed his lips into a thin line and didn't answer. Tears fell silently down Skylar's cheeks. She held tight to Julian's hand. Julian, you promised me. When I was 15, you held me in your arms while we waited for the ambulance. You said you would always protect me. Tears slipped down her face, smearing the makeup at the corners of her eyes. She wiped her cheek with the back of her hand, her eyes locked on Julian. Tell me, did you mean it? Julian looked at her and sighed. Skylar, but right now, Amelia needs me too. He turned toward the exit. Her shrill scream followed him. Julian, if you leave, don't come back. You owe me. You'll owe me forever. He didn't look back. Driving home, he called her for the 23rd time. Still off. Text messages piled up on his screen, one after another. No replies. He parked in front of their building. He looked up. The windows were dark. The weight in his chest suddenly grew heavier. His fingers shook as he put the key in the lock. The living room curtains were drawn. The light was dim. Amelia? No answer. He rushed to open every door, but she wasn't behind any of them. Standing in the empty bedroom, Julian felt like something had been ripped out of him. He picked up his phone and dialed for the 24th time. The same automated voice answered. He slid down the side of the closet and sat on the floor. Amelia was really gone. Life on the island was slow. Just as the future Julian had said, it was like a hidden paradise. My house was on the west side of the village. A 2-story cottage with windows facing the sunset. In the evenings, I would open the window and let the ocean wind pour in. The curtains would billow up like sails. Slowly, the islanders got to know me. One day, my neighbor lady saw me and said, "Little Rose, where are you off to?" I looked at her, confused. She pointed at the wild roses in my yard. The island was full of them. They grew wild between the rocks, clustered together. After that, everyone on the island called me that. When I walked on the beach, children would wave and say, "Hey, Rose." I put the $2 million in the bank. Nothing on the island was very expensive. I started forgetting things. The first day I came, I had Julian's number memorized. When I couldn't sleep at night, I would whisper the digits in the dark. Later, the number got fuzzy. I forgot some of the digits. Eventually, all of them. One day, I'd been crouching on a rock for a long time. When I stood up, I felt dizzy. I held onto a nearby rock and waited for the feeling to pass. In that foggy moment, a question popped into my head. What's today's date? I tried to remember. I couldn't. The days came and went like the tide, steady and unchanging. The roses in my yard bloomed and faded, bloomed and faded. Little Rose, my neighbor said, it's been a while since you arrived, hasn't it? I just shook my head and smiled. I've lost track. That evening, I was sitting by my window watching the sunset. I heard footsteps downstairs. Not my neighbor. I knew her walk, slow and a little shuffling. The footsteps stopped right outside. Then my neighbor's voice, confused, "Can I help you, sir?" A moment of silence. Then a voice. "Ma'am, I'm looking for Amelia Grant." My eyes went wide. My heart slammed against my ribs. I thought I had cut that part of my life away. But hearing that familiar voice, all those old memories came rushing back, flooding my mind. I clamped a hand over my mouth and crept into the house. My neighbor's voice drifted up from below, but I couldn't make out what they were saying. That evening, I went to the dock to buy fish. An elderly woman the islanders called Grandma May ran a small stall there. "The grouper's not very fresh today," she said. "Storm's coming." The boats didn't go out far. I was about to leave when she said, "Looks like that man is here for fish too." My breath caught. Julian stood at the other end of the dock. He was staring right at me, his eyes unreadable. He looked thinner. His cheekbones stood out. The wind blew his hair back, revealing a faint scar above his eyebrow. I grabbed my fish and turned to go home. Amelia, his voice shook. The storm's coming. Make sure your windows are closed. I didn't look back. I just walked to the village with my fish. No one followed, but I knew he hadn't left. That night, the storm hit. The wind blew in off the ocean. Rain fell sideways. The windows rattled. I went to close one, but rain was already blowing in. The floor was wet. Just as I was about to latch it, I saw someone through the gap. Julian stood below in the rain, completely soaked. He was looking up at my window. Through the curtain of rain, I couldn't read his expression. A sharp ache filled my chest. I clenched my jaw. After a long hesitation, I squinted against the rain and yelled down to him, "Come up." He froze. His lips moved, but no sound came out. "Come up," I yelled again. My voice vanished in the wind. He stood in my doorway, rainwater dripping from his hair. I turned, poured a glass of hot water, and set it on the table. "Amelia." His voice was rough. "I'm sorry." My voice was steady. "Don't be. That's all in the past. I've started my new life." He looked at me, his eyes red. "Skylar, I was wrong about her. I thought it was habit, obligation. She needed me, so I went. I couldn't tell the difference between habit and love, between obligation and guilt. I honestly thought giving her a wedding would make things even. There's nothing else between us, Amelia. You have to believe me." His voice broke for a moment. "And the pink diamond, the day before the auction, she came to me with it. She said she was holding onto it for me. But then she cried and said she wanted it. I couldn't say no. I lied to you. I was afraid you'd ask me how she got it. I didn't know what to say." His voice dropped lower and lower. Tears mixed with the rain on his face. I sighed. "Julian, if you gave her all your love, then don't tell me you loved me too." He stopped talking. In the following days, Julian moved into an empty house nearby. Every evening when I walked back from the dock with my fish, I would pass by his place. We kept our distance, walking on opposite sides of the stone path. Neither of us spoke. Every morning after that, something would be waiting outside my door. Sometimes wild roses, sometimes conch shells. A note was always tucked underneath. Each one said the same thing, "I'm sorry." That night, I heard an engine down at the dock. The noise woke me up. I sat up and walked to the window. A white yacht was tied up at the dock. Someone walked down the gangway. A white dress, long hair loose. The moonlight hit her face, and I could see who it was. Skylar. The next morning, I opened my door. Outside, Skylar stood in front of Julian, her shoulders shaking. Her sweet voice drifted over. "Julian, I looked for you for 3 months. You didn't even answer one text." Julian stood in his doorway, silent. Skylar stepped closer and reached out, grabbing his sleeve. "Julian, I know you can't let her go." Her voice cracked. "But you can't just leave me." Tears fell from her eyes, landing on his sleeve. They argued. Then, suddenly, she saw me. Tears were still wet on her face, but her eyes changed instantly. "Amelia, give him back to me. I already told him yesterday." My voice was calm. "I don't love him anymore. So you don't have to ask me for anything." Skylar froze. Then pure joy spread across her face. I walked past them. Behind me, her sharp voice rang out. "Did you hear that? She said she doesn't love you anymore." Then came a sharp slap. "Julian, you hit me?" I stopped walking. "Enough." Julian's voice was ice cold. "Even if she doesn't love me, I'm not choosing you. Skylar, I only feel responsible for you. Not love. I got it all wrong before, and it made everyone suffer." Skylar was 6 years old when her mother took her hand and walked into the Cross family's yard. "This is Mrs. Cross, Mommy's best friend." Her mother crouched down and smoothed Skylar's collar. "After Mommy's gone, she will be your mommy." The door opened. A boy ran in, holding a popsicle. Sticky juice dripped down his fingers. He saw her and stopped. He walked over and held out the popsicle. "Here, you can have it." She took it. The sweet juice stuck to her fingers. It felt cool. From that day on, she called him Julian. Mrs. Cross said, "Skylar's mother and I were best friends. Skylar is like a daughter to me. You two should be like brother and sister." He nodded, smiling, and tapped her nose. She decided right then, Julian was her salvation. When she was 15, she saw him walking with another girl for the first time. They came out of the school gate side by side. His backpack hung off one shoulder, and he tilted his head to listen to her talk. That night, she took his razor into the bathroom. The water in the tub slowly turned pink. The door flew open. His voice was shaking. She learned that if she bled, he would hold her. If she bled, he wouldn't leave. So she did it many more times after that. She thought that as long as she kept bleeding, he would stay. The year Amelia appeared, Skylar was 19. Julian brought her to meet Skylar. He said her name was Amelia. Skylar smiled and said, "Nice to meet you," in a sweet voice. But inside, she was burning. That night, she sat in the bathroom for a long time, holding the razor. She told herself it was just a date. He would come back, like all the other times. But Julian didn't leave Amelia. He proposed to her instead. The jealousy drove her crazy. When she heard Amelia wanted a pink diamond, she clenched her fists. She spent a lot of money to get it first. When the ring slid onto her finger, only one thought filled her mind. No one can take what's mine. She begged Julian to let her have her dream wedding. She was betting he would say yes. She was right. Julian went behind Amelia's back and agreed to a secret wedding. Before Skylar could even scheme to reveal it, Amelia found out on her own. They signed the divorce papers. On the wedding day, Skylar stood on the steps in a white gown, her arm linked through Julian's. Her dream had finally come true. Then she saw Amelia standing in the crowd. The happiness faded. There was one more obstacle. A thought popped into her head. I lost my ring. She watched Julian force Amelia to hand over her ring. She watched him pry Amelia's fingers open, one by one. Watched the blood drip on the floor. She looked at the sapphire ring in her hand and nearly lost her mind with joy. Then Amelia left. Julian followed her to the island. So Skylar followed too. She stood in front of him, holding his sleeve, begging. Then Amelia walked by and said she didn't love him anymore. Skylar thought she had won. She screamed it out, her voice sharp and shrill. But Julian slapped her. Even if she doesn't love me, I'm not choosing you. She finally understood. To him, she was just a burden. 1 month later, I rented the empty house by the dock. The landlord was a tanned old man. He kept glancing at me while showing me the place. When he handed me the keys, he said, "This place has been empty for 8 years. You're the first person who wanted to rent it to run a business out of it." Renovations took a month. I painted the sign myself on an old piece of wood. A fish and a coffee cup, drawn with a marker. On opening day, 3 people showed up. All locals I'd gotten to know on the island. That night, I sat behind the counter and wrote carefully in a small notebook. Day 1, $60. The first time Julian came to my cafe, I was wiping down a mug. The wind chime on the door jingled. I looked up. He gave me a small smile. I found out later he'd rented another empty house on the other side of the village, planning to stay. He hung a crooked wooden sign on an old tree out front. Small engine, radio and window repair. The writing was messy. The islanders started calling him Julian. Broken motor? Call Julian. Radio won't work? Call Julian. He walked in and sat at the table by the window. 1 coffee. I brought it over. He took a sip. Didn't say anything extra. He came on Wednesdays, Fridays and Sundays. Ordered a coffee, drank it, paid, and left. We always kept a pot of pothos between us. One day, he came carrying a clay pot. Time to repot that plant. I didn't answer, but he went ahead and did it anyway, like it was the most natural thing. That night, lying in bed, I suddenly remembered I forgot to water the pothos. I threw on a jacket and walked to the cafe. Moonlight lit up the windowsill. There were drops of water on the leaves. Someone had already watered it. A note was tucked under the pot. Was passing by. Thought I'd help. I bit my lip and put the note in my drawer. He knew I wouldn't talk to him, so he wrote instead. By now, those notes had almost filled the whole drawer. One day, a tourist couple came into my cafe. The scenery here is amazing. Too bad there's no real tourism economy. If someone developed it, built a resort or something, it could be great. But it's too remote, not even a real ferry line. The future Julian's words came back to me. The island will grow a lot. If you get there early, you can get in on the ground floor. The next morning, I took the boat to the mainland. When I came back, I had a lease in my hand. The empty house by the dock. 2 stories with a yard. The landlord asked me, "You planning to dry fish here?" I shook my head. A bed and breakfast. In the second week of renovations, some people showed up on the island. The leader was a middle-aged man with glasses. 2 younger people followed, carrying clipboards and cameras. They stood by the dock taking pictures of the shoreline. The islanders said they were from the county, here to look into tourism development. 2 months after the ferry line opened, my bed and breakfast went viral online. It started with a blog post. One of the first tourists wrote a long article, and it spread fast. A few travel influencers reposted it. Then more bloggers, more articles. People booked the new ferry line just to try my signature coffee. Others came on Wednesdays, hoping to see the handsome repair guy everyone was talking about online. Someone posted a picture of Julian. The comments were all asking if he was single. My rooms were booked solid a week in advance. I rented the yard next door and turned it into 4 more rooms. Grandma May moved her fish stall from the dock to the village entrance. She set up a tarp for shade. Her business got so good that her son quit his job in Harlow and came back to help. One evening, Grandma May sat in my cafe, counting the day's earnings. She counted 3 times. Little Rose, I've never seen this much money in my whole life. She stacked the bills and put them in a tin box. Then she looked at me. Could you teach me how to do it? Run a shop? I want to open a seafood store for my son. Sell dried fish, shrimp, squid strips. But I only know how to sell fresh fish. I don't know anything about business. The next day, Chet showed up, then Rick, whose wife ran the local diner, then Joe, who loaded freight at the dock. They filled up all 3 tables in my cafe. Little Rose, teach us. I don't know how, I said, feeling stuck. They stared at me. I know how to run one shop. But I don't know anything about business on a bigger scale. The wind chime on the door jingled. Julian stood in the doorway, holding a stack of papers. He walked in and put them on the table. Grandma May's seafood shop, Chet's repair service, Joe's freight company. He spread the papers out one by one. Business license applications, lease templates, startup budget sheets. Grandma May picked up one of the papers, turning it over in her hands. Julian, what does this say? Everything you need to open your store. He crouched down to her eye level. This blank is for your business name. This one is for what you're selling. This one is for how much money you're starting with. Grandma May put the paper down, looking helpless. I can't read. I'll fill it out for you. He picked up a pen. Grandma May talked, and he wrote. In that moment, I noticed something different about him. One day, I walked by the dock. Grandma May's seafood shop was being renovated. Julian was crouched in front of it, drilling holes in the wall with a power drill. He looked completely focused. His gray shirt was soaked with sweat. Grandma May stood next to him, holding a glass of water. Julian, take a break. Have some water. He glanced back and smiled. After I finish this hole. Dust drifted down from the wall, landing on his shoulders. He squinted and pushed the drill bit forward. I stood under a tree and watched him. He didn't see me. That evening, I sat on the 2nd floor of my bed and breakfast by the window. The tide was coming in. The water sparkled like scattered gold. Julian was downstairs fixing an old generator. Parts were spread all over the ground. I looked down from the window. His hair was damp with sweat. He suddenly looked up. Through the 2nd floor window, he saw me. We just looked at each other. 3 months after the resort opened, the number of businesses on the island had grown to 20. My bed and breakfast was so busy I had to rent another yard. One evening, a young couple walked past my garden. The girl tilted her head back to look at a coconut palm. That's so tall, the boy said, has to be 30 feet at least. The girl stood on her toes and reached up. I couldn't even touch a leaf if I jumped. The boy laughed. Don't bother jumping, you still wouldn't reach. I watched them from the window, laughing and shoving each other. I suddenly remembered a time when I used to laugh and play with someone like that. But after one betrayal too many, I stopped. On this island, I learned to stand under a tree by myself, tilting my head back, watching the sun slip through the leaves. The end.
This is Listening Novel. We appreciate you spending your time with us. If you enjoyed today's story, please like and subscribe for more stories, and stay tuned for what's next.